Chapter 12. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Su Zhan, who woke up leisurely, looked at the naked Li Xiaolu next to him in confusion. He remembered, he seemed to have swallowed up the Sonic Man's ability, and then wanted to swallow up Li Xiaolu's ability, and then seemed to be attracted and inspired by her figure. A certain desire, and then uncontrollable. It seems that I did it too harshly. Su Zhan glanced at the embarrassed Li Xiaolu and felt a little apologetic. He was out of control at the time, but he seems to have recovered a little now, as if he has vented his negative emotions. Of course, this venting method is somewhat special. Is it because of an evil heart? Su Zhan couldn't figure out why he suddenly lost control. There seemed to be no other reason other than an evil heart. Oops, why did I sleep for so long? Looking at the dark night outside and the time displayed on the clock, Su Zhan was depressed. Calculating the time, it seems that there is less than an hour left. The hero and heroine don't know where they are yet, and the boss of the organization doesn't know where they are either. Thought control and mind control. Especially mind control, this is the ability he wants most. It would be a shame to miss it like this. No, I need to find the male protagonist as soon as possible, or I can find a follower next to the villain boss. He also has the ability to control his mind. Su Zhan didn't want to miss the opportunity to gain abilities. Time was limited, so he used his precognition ability to try to find them. But at this time, Su Zhan suddenly discovered that his ability had failed. He tried again unwillingly, but the result was the same: sound waves, precognition, tracking, and the abilities he just swallowed all seemed to have failed, but his fire control ability was still there, which made him feel a little relieved. It seemed that there must be something wrong somewhere, which caused the ability he just swallowed. Failed? MD, your hard work won't be in vain, right? Su Zhan cursed dejectedly, but looking at Li Xiaolu, well, it's not like the work was in vain. At least, it was fun for once, after losing the ability that I just swallowed, and the plot was seriously damaged by myself. There was not much time left, so it was probably too late. Although Li Xiaolu's ability hasn't been swallowed up by herself yet, she might be able to find it, but she is still fainting now, and Su Zhan can't bear it, especially when he sees the bright red blood next to him. He feels a little guilty. Forget it, I can still come in after 30 days anyway. At worst, I'll keep this plane and come back again. Su Zhan shook his head in resignation, found the banknotes and left a note, then helped her put on her clothes and quietly waited for the time to end. The copy time is over and will be back soon. The system's voice sounded, and Su Zhan had disappeared. The next second, Su Zhan appeared in Sky's car, but Sky was not in the car. Came back. Su Zhan sighed, and then asked the system, what happened before? Why did I lose control? Is it because of my evil heart? I can feel the evil in my heart is very strong, the feeling of doing whatever I want. Extremely strong. Dungeon mission statistics, rewards for completing main missions. What reward? The energy required for system upgrade, the specific value is unknown. Okay, you'd better answer the question I just asked first. Losing control is not due to an evil heart, but because you devoured too many abilities too quickly. Although your body can automatically adjust the devoured abilities, remove disadvantages, and stabilize abilities, this requires a process, and you eat too much, so the process slows down, causing you to lose control. Is that so? Su Zhan thought about it and found that it was indeed the case. No matter how strong your body is, you may not be able to improve if you swallow too much at once. However, since the task is to swallow more than 3 abilities, that is to say, swallowing 3 abilities should be the limit of my body. Of course, the premise is that it can be devoured continuously in a short period of time. What about my ability to devour? It's not ineffective, it just requires your body to improve and adjust. Once it's over, it will be fine. So, it's just temporarily unavailable. That's okay, otherwise, it would have been all in vain. Su Zhan breathed a sigh of relief and asked, System, is the energy this time enough for you to upgrade? I have swallowed so much there should be a lot of ability and energy, not to mention the rewards from the mission. Not enough energy to upgrade. Isn't this enough? Well, it seems I will have a hard time getting you to upgrade. Are you back? Where were you before? Why can't I see you when I wake up and can't get through the phone? The car door was opened and Sky looked at Su-Jean and asked in surprise and worry. Su-Jean smiled. You weren't awake when I got up, so I didn't tell you. I found a good restaurant before, but it only had online reviews, so I went to check it out in person because it was a bit far away. If it was good, I would take you there. Go, if it's not good, there's no need to bother. Unfortunately, the place is not that good, so, it's all in vain. As for the phone, I haven't paid attention to it, maybe because the signal there was not good before. My dear, don't do this again. I don't care if the restaurant is good or not. I only care if the person eating with me in the restaurant is you. You don't know how worried you are that I can't contact you. I thought something happened to you. Sky said with concern. Okay, I promise I won't do it next time. Su-Jean promised apologetically. But although I was a little disappointed with that restaurant, I'm really hungry now, so beauty, would I be honored to have dinner with you? Of course, handsome. Sky responded with a smile. Chapter 0015 Phil Coulson. 1 week after returning from the copy, Su-Jean's devoured abilities have been gradually restored. It seems that his body has gradually adjusted and his abilities can be used. However, these abilities have little use for the time being, except for the ability to predict. On this day, Su-Jean suddenly felt a fragment of the future. He and Sky were sitting in the car, the door opened, and a smiling man in a suit stood outside the door, Phil Coulson. He seemed to be saying something and stretched out his hand, but what he saw was only a fragment, but there was no sound. Su-Jean guessed that he was probably invited to join S.H.I.E.L.D., and it seemed that he had been invited as well, because his hand was stretched out towards him. The predicted future won't be too far away, so it should be something that will happen soon, but this time seems to be earlier than the normal plot, at least about 2 or 3 months in advance. What are you thinking about? Sky asked softly when he saw Su-Jean in a daze. Su-Jean shook his head. It's nothing, I just suddenly had a feeling that someone would come to us. Premonition. Do you have the ability in this area? Sky asked curiously. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Su-Jean explained. Anyway, these abilities were not obtained in this world, and no one knew what kind of abilities he had before, so Su-Jean had nothing to worry about. Then did you have a premonition that we would be together? Sky suddenly asked curiously. Su-Jean shook his head. No, but I think this is destined, so, there is no need for any premonition at all. Moreover, although I didn't have a premonition that I would be with you before, I have a premonition that in the future, we will always be together. Together. I don't know if what you said is true or not, but I'm very happy. Sky said with a smile. Bang 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 bang. Chapter 13. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Someone knocked gently on the car door. Sky looked at Su-Jean in surprise. Su-Jean shrugged. It seems that this time the premonition seems to have come true. Opened the car door. Sure enough it was Phil Coulson. Su-Jean, Sky, hello, let me introduce myself. My name is Phil Coulson, and I am an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Phil Coulson said with a smile. What's the matter? Su-Jean asked. Why don't we talk somewhere else? Phil Coulson said with a smile. Su-Jean and Sky looked at each other, and Su-Jean nodded in agreement. I thought that when Coulson said changing places, he meant a nearby coffee shop or something like that, but he didn't expect that he would take them directly to the plane. It's the plane in the TV series Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It can also be called a mobile base. Su-Jean saw Coulson's antique car. Of course, it just looked antique. In fact, this car was equipped with quite high-end functions, including flying in the air. At the same time, Su-Jean also met the 2 scientist agents, Leo Fitz and Gemma Simmons. It is worth mentioning that Gemma is much more beautiful than in the TV series. Please take a seat. After arriving at the bar in the plane and sitting down, Coulson said directly, I am building my own team. This plane is the base. It looks good, it is convenient and fast, and can be moved at any time. There are not many bases like this. It's indeed good. Su-Jean nodded. However, I want to know more about what is going on with you. Isn't it because you want to show us around your base? Of course not. In fact, I mainly came here to find her. Coulson looked at Sky. A master hacker and a member of the Rising Tide organization. The Rising Tide organization has repeatedly broken into our systems, stolen information, and released it to the public. Most of this information is something that ordinary people should not know and cannot accept yet. Not long ago, again news about some ability users has been announced, so, Miss Sky, I hope you can help me. Help you? Why, what right do you have to hide this? There are so many superpowers and superheroes in this world, wouldn't the public already know about it? Sky said. Coulson nodded and said, yes, especially after the Battle of New York, the public naturally knew about the existence of superheroes, but, this is different. The existence of a small number of superheroes will make people feel at ease, because when encountering dangerous situations there will be times when these superheroes will help. But if there are too many superheroes, it will not be practical, but worry. Like a mutant? Not really, but it's almost the same. In fact, this kind of thing is unavoidable, but if the public knows that someone is doing research to create superpowers, then the results will be completely different. At present, there have been many cases of superpowers. After investigation into the cases of superpowers, it was found that these superpowers should have been injected with some kind of serum, but it was not perfect and would self-destruct. To put it simply, it is similar to the extremis virus, so it is very likely that someone got the extremis virus samples of the virus to study new virus serum. Just tell me what I did. It wasn't me. When Coulson mentioned the extremis virus, he glanced at Su-Jean. Su-Jean curled his lips and said dissatisfied. Coulson apologized, of course, I'm sure you didn't do this, but it has seriously endangered social security. It's just that the other party is very cunning, and we tried many methods but couldn't find out about them. And the Rising Tide organization, he also deliberately announced this information to break through our system, which seems to confuse the public. So you found me? Sorry, although I have this ability, I didn't do this. Sky shook his head and said. But maybe you can help us find this mysterious organization. Coulson said seriously. Maybe, but why should I help you? Because this is a good way for you to clear yourself of suspicion. Based on your status in the Rising Tide organization, I have the right to arrest you. You can try it. Su-Jean took out his lighter and said with a smile. We are now at an altitude of 6,000 meters. I don't know if you have the ability to fly, but I am willing to take a gamble. Coulson said calmly. Su-Jean looked at him with a half-smile. Although Coulson's tone was calm, it could be seen that he was actually very nervous. Are you threatening me? No, I prefer to think that this is my sincerity. I can arrest you, but I don't want to do that. I just hope that you can help me, and also help those who died because of the defects of the virus. Coulson said seriously. Okay, I'm willing to help. Sky said suddenly. Sky, if you don't want to, believe me, no one can force you. Su-Jean said to Sky. Sky nodded and said, I know, but he is right. Many people have died because of this. In the future, there may be more. I don't know whether these people are voluntary or forced, but I think we can help them. Well, it seems that I can only consider blowing up this place again if I have the opportunity in the future. Su-Jean said helplessly, looked at the nervous Coulson and said with a smile, Don't be nervous, I'm just joking. That's not funny. Coulson grinned bitterly. Chapter 0016 Gemma Simmons' first kiss. Su-Jean was not surprised that Sky decided to help. First of all, Sky was kind-hearted, so it was really hard to ignore this kind of thing. Secondly, this is a good opportunity to join S.H.I.E.L.D. Only by proving one's worth can one enter S.H.I.E.L.D. Skye used the equipment on the plane to start investigating, and had to admit that her hacking skills were indeed very powerful, especially with the support of such high-end equipment. She was almost omnipotent. Seeing Skye busy in earnest, Su-Jean felt a little bored. "If you feel bored, I can have someone take you to see the plane." Phil Coulson stood next to Su-Jean and said in a low voice, "Actually, I don't understand this either, but there is no other way. I can only wait for news here." As he said that, he pressed the communicator on his ear. "Gemma, come here if it's convenient." After a while, Gemma came over wearing a white coat. "Gemma, take Su-Jean around." "Good," Gemma nodded and smiled at Su-Jean. "Sorry to bother you." Su-Jean smiled. He was indeed interested in this aircraft, and it was very popular. However, the most popular thing is the aircraft carrier of S.H.I.E.L.D., but it is not easy to get that thing. When the system is upgraded and the things in the dungeon plane can be brought out, I will figure out how to get them. The character of the scientist is somewhat strange. Gemma took Su-Jean to visit the aircraft. No. It couldn't be said to be a visit anymore, it was just science popularization. It's a pity that Su-Jean couldn't understand a word she said. Seeing how enthusiastically she said it, Su-Jean found it quite interesting. "Do you have a boyfriend?" Su-Jean suddenly asked. Gemma was stunned for a moment and shook her head. "No, I was directly recruited into the team right after I graduated from the academy. I didn't have the time or energy when I was in school, so yes. I don't have a boyfriend." "What about you? Kai is your girlfriend?" "Yeah." Su-Jean nodded. "Looks good." Gemma said with some envy, then quickly changed the subject and said excitedly, "I have read your information. You are very mysterious and seem to have special abilities. You have absorbed desperate situations. The virus is not dangerous at all. It is very likely that your genes or serum can inhibit the peace gene virus. If the cause can be found out, many people can be saved. Those who were transformed were basically injected with the centipede virus. This centipede virus was developed based on the extremis virus, so." The more Gemma talked, the more excited she became, but then she noticed Su-Jean's non-committal look, a little lack of confidence, and his voice became lower and lower, and finally shut up. "I should know, you should hate this, just pretend I didn't say anything." Gemma apologized. Su-Jean shook his head in surprise. "It's fine if I just ask you to draw a little blood, but, my blood is not that easy to draw, so, since you want to do research, then you will do this. What does it cost?" "Really? Do you really agree?" "Great, tell me what you want." Gemma said excitedly. "I want you." Su-Jean stared at Gemma. Gemma was stunned. "Want me? What's the meaning? What? Are you unwilling? I thought you were willing to sacrifice for the sake of science and those innocent people. But now it seems that you are not so determined." Su-Jean shook his head in disappointment. "If you are really willing to give me your blood for me to study, I can promise you. However, it will be an equal exchange, one at a time." Gemma hesitated for a moment and said firmly. Su-Jean was actually just joking to tease her, but he didn't expect that she actually agreed. "Why? Just for my blood?" Su-Jean asked curiously. "On the one hand, there are other reasons," Gemma said, lowering her head. Chapter 14. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What reason? I don't know, I think you are very special. It's hard to describe what it feels like. I just feel very close. Although the information says you may be dangerous, I believe you are not a bad person. That's why I agreed. I am not a casual person, and I will agree to anyone who gives me blood. Gemma said with a blushing face. This answer surprised Su-Jean. Could it be that this was love at first sight? Well, although he knows that he is very attractive, it seems that Black Widow had some feelings for him when they first met, and then Skye, they also established a relationship not long after they got together, and now Gemma is the same. Do I have any hidden charms? Looking at the somewhat shy Genma, Su-Jean suddenly smiled and reached out to hold her chin, causing her to raise her head involuntarily. Then under her nervous and shy gaze, Su-Jean lowered his head and kissed her. Gemma closed her eyes subconsciously, feeling this feeling that she had never experienced before. It seemed like a long time, yet it seemed like just a moment. Su-Jean let her go and said with a smile, "Actually, what I wanted to say was that I wanted your first kiss. However, your proposal made me very excited, so I changed my mind and followed your instructions. It's up to you. So, if you are ready, you can come to me at any time. Let this be a little secret between us." Gemma understood what he meant, nodded and said, "Don't worry, I won't tell Sky, nor will I tell anyone. I don't know how I could do such a bold and absurd move. I hope you don't misunderstand me." "Of course not." Su-Jean was very sure that Gemma was actually a scientific madman with no experience with men and women at all. "That's good, I'll find you when I'm ready," Gemma said shyly. "I'm waiting for you. Now, just keep taking me around." Gemma took Su-Jean for a tour of the plane, and by this time Sky had already received results. She did not investigate the situation of the mysterious organization. This organization seemed to be very large and it was not that easy to conquer. However, she had finally found out the first experimenter, Michael Collins. His situation is not very good. He has a son who was transformed by the centipede virus, but he has always been very secretive and has almost never been discovered. This time it happened to be because he appeared at an explosion scene and ended up exposing his abilities in order to save people. His condition seems to be very stable. Maybe, it was successful. We must find him as soon as possible and determine his condition. Phil Coulson looked at the virtual screen and said seriously, "Centipede warriors are in very unstable condition and will self-destruct. Once it explodes, the damage caused can be considerable. I have locked his location, but I hope you can guarantee that nothing bad will happen during this process," Sky said. "I can only promise that I will do my best." "All right," Sky said the address, and the plane immediately rerouted. "Thank you, dear." Su-Jean hugged Sky and sat aside. Sky shook his head. "It's nothing. I hope I can help him, but I'm afraid it may not go so smoothly. If there is really danger, dear, are you helping?" "Certainly." Chapter 0017 Shield Advisor, Michael Collins' home. Michael was a little restless. He could feel that something was wrong with his situation, and it seemed that it was getting harder and harder to control. Looking down at the centipede device on his left wrist, he didn't know what to do. His son has been sent away by him, and he doesn't want to hurt his son. Bang bang bang. There was a sudden knock on the door, and Michael became nervous instantly. He walked to the door and looked outside through the door. A man and a woman, whom I did not recognize. "Who?" Michael asked in a deep voice. "Michael, we're here to help you," Sky said. Michael hesitated for a moment and opened the door. "Hello Michael, my name is Sky, and he is my boyfriend Su-Jean. We are here to help you," Sky said softly. "I don't know you, and I don't need your help." Michael shook his head. Sky glanced at his wrist and said, "Listen to me Michael, your current situation is very dangerous. I know that you have been injected with the centipede virus, and I also know that your situation seems to be stable, but this is only temporary and must be confirmed. Only if there are no problems, otherwise you will not only endanger yourself, but also endanger others." "Who are you?" Michael asked in a deep voice. "We are considered to be members of S.H.I.E.L.D. for the time being, but we are not with them. I helped them find you. I hope you can go to S.H.I.E.L.D. so that they can study the centipede virus in your body and find a solution." Before Sky could finish her words, Michael was already furious. S.H.I.E.L.D., doing research, he knew it was not a good thing as soon as he heard it, not to mention that she found him. He roared and rushed towards Sky. "Court death." Seeing Michael's move, Su-Jean sneered, blocked Sky in an instant, and then kicked him directly. Michael ignored Su-Jean's attack. He knew his strength very well, but when Su-Jean kicked him, he felt a strong force, as if he had been hit by a truck, and he flew out. He bumped into the sofa next to him and lay down on the ground. How is it possible? Michael looked at Su-Jean in surprise, completely unable to understand how he could be stronger than him. Nothing is impossible. Su-Jean sneered, came to him in an instant, and picked him up directly. Michael panicked and tried to break free, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't shake Su-Jean. Anger caused his body to gradually change. The centipede virus seemed to be uncontrollable at this time. He felt that his body was heating up, as if it was about to melt and explode. "Let me go, let me go!" Michael shouted. Snort! Su-Jean snorted coldly, suddenly let go of Michael, and immediately slashed his neck with the knife. Crazy Michael collapsed to the ground in an instant, and the heat in his body seemed to disappear. "Are you okay, not scared?" Su-Jean asked Sky. Sky shook his head. "I'm fine, but his condition is not stable. He seemed to be about to self-destruct just now. If you hadn't knocked him out in time, I'm afraid we would have been in danger. Take him back first and wait until he wakes up and calms down before we talk," Su-Jean said. Su-Jean carried Michael and Sky out, returned to the plane, and put Michael in the special room. Coulson said seriously, "His situation is worse than imagined, and a solution must be found as soon as possible. We have to find a way. If it weren't for Su-Jean, if he blew himself up just now, I'm afraid many people nearby would be implicated. You can absorb the extremis virus, so you should be able to absorb the centipede virus, right?" Coulson asked Su-Jean. Chapter 15. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Su-Jean pouted. "Maybe, even if he absorbs it, what's the use if he's safe? There are many centipede warriors like him who have been transformed by the centipede virus. I can't let me absorb every one of them, right?" "Makes sense." Coulson shook his head and hesitated to speak. He actually wanted to ask if he could study Su-Jean's body, but he didn't say this. He knew that Su-Jean would definitely not agree, and he was not sure how Su-Jean would react after what he said. He didn't want to anger Su-Jean. "Anyway, I want to thank you all this time. If Sky hadn't found him, if Su-Jean hadn't stopped you in time, many innocent people would have been injured this time. Your abilities can help more people, so, I formally invite you to join S.H.I.E.L.D. and become a consultant for my team. I wonder if you are willing to join?" Coulson said gratefully and seriously. Su-Jean shrugged and said, "Don't ask me, if Sky agrees, I will agree." Coulson looked at Sky, who hesitated for a moment before finally nodding in agreement. She had originally planned to join S.H.I.E.L.D., and now that she had the opportunity, of course she wouldn't refuse. "Welcome to join us," Coulson said happily. "One is a master hacker and the other is a superhero. They can be of great help to the team." Originally, one of his candidates, Grant Ward, was an action expert he was more optimistic about. After all, there is no one in the current team who can fight, but he has not yet officially determined it. Now that there is a Soviet war, it will not be possible. He is needed. Su-Jean and Sky arranged a room, because the room was not very big and they did not live together. But it doesn't matter, everyone knows that they are a couple anyway. Gemma and Fitz welcomed the addition of Su-Jean and Sky. As for May, although they haven't seen each other before, they can be regarded as friends after meeting them later. After contacting him, he didn't have any special attitude. But what Su-Jean was curious about was that he didn't see Ward, this Hydra agent hiding in S.H.I.E.L.D. "Is it because of me that I replaced Ward?" Although he didn't know the reason, it didn't matter. Su-Jean really didn't like this Ward. If he joined, he would definitely teach him a lesson. In any case, Sky and I have joined S.H.I.E.L.D. and can live with S.H.I.E.L.D. With the status of consultants, it will be much more convenient. As the night progressed, after saying goodnight to Sky, Su-Jean returned to his room to get some rest. Not long after I lay down, I heard a knock on the door. Su-Jean thought that Sky was too lazy to get dressed, so he went over to open the door shirtless and wearing shorts. As a result, when she opened the door, she found Gemma standing outside, chapter 0018, lying down very comfortably. Gemma looked at Su-Jean's dress with some surprise. The strong muscles made her a little shy, especially the boxer briefs underneath were so obvious. Although she had no experience in this area, it didn't mean that she didn't understand anything. Seeing Gemma's shy look, Su-Jean smiled and joked, "Why, you came knocking on my door in the middle of the night. Are you ready?" No, I just suddenly discovered that Michael was about to self-destruct, but after he was knocked unconscious by you, the centipede virus seemed to have stabilized. Moreover, you have absorbed the extremist virus, so I wanted to ask you about this aspect. Maybe I can find a solution. Gemma said, shaking her head. Come in first. Su-Jean took Gemma's hand and let her in, then closed the door smoothly. You just came to my room like this, aren't you afraid that others will see and misunderstand you? Su-Jean asked with a smile, looking at the nervous Gemma. No one saw it, Sky was already asleep, Gemma explained. Su-Jean smiled. You sound like you came to me for a secret date, and you waited until Sky fell asleep to come. Gemma lowered her head, too shy to speak. Okay, I won't tease you anymore. Whatever you want to ask, I promise to answer you. Su-Jean said with a smile, then lay on her lap and smiled comfortably. Gemma had never had such an experience. Looking at Su-Jean lying on her lap, especially the way he looked at her, she didn't know what to do. She couldn't think of the questions she had originally thought about. Don't worry, I won't do anything to you until you are ready. Oh. Gemma took a deep breath, calmed down, and started asking. And Su-Jean was indeed very cooperative and answered all questions, especially his responses to the extremist virus, which he explained in great detail. And these reactions are very precious, and maybe there is a solution to the virus in them. Unknowingly, the two of them chatted for a long time, and when they realized that so much time had passed. Ah, it's so late, I'm going back to rest, thank you. Gemma whispered. Good. Su-Jean turned over and noticed that Gemma quietly breathed a sigh of relief. She looked very nervous. I have to say, I was lying very comfortably just now. This is my first time lying on a woman's lap, and it feels good. Su-Jean said with a smile. Really? Sky? Gemma said in surprise. Real. Su-Jean nodded seriously, and then said softly, Okay, go back and rest early. Well, I'm going back then, good night. Good night. Gemma stood up and walked to the door to go out, but Su-Jean suddenly said, Try to wear skirts and shorts when you are alone with me in the future. Your legs are beautiful and I like them very much. It would be a pity to hide them. I know. Gemma responded, then opened the door and went out. It was already noon when Su-Jean woke up the next day. When he came out, he found that Sky was playing with the computer on the sofa, while Gemma and Fitz should be in the laboratory. Two scientific madmen, especially Fitz. In fact, the two of them work together very well, but they are just experiments, and they work together very well. If the plot develops, it seems that the two of them will have some kind of affection, but now, it's obviously impossible. Because of his own appearance, the results of many things will naturally change. Something's done. Coulson suddenly came out and shouted. Peru, 084 was discovered. What is 084? Sky asked curiously. 084 represents an object of unknown origin, which is very similar to you and Su-Jean. Coulson said, Well, speaking of it, Sky and Su-Jean are indeed of unknown origin, especially Su-Jean. As for Sky, her identity is not necessarily much better than that of Su-Jean. Otherwise, she would not come to S.H.I.E.L.D. investigate your own life experience. We used this codename in the past to determine whether it was useful or posed a threat. The 084 we found last time was very interesting. Coulson continued. What did you find last time? Su-Jean asked casually. Chapter 16. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Hammer, that when he said this, Su-Jean immediately realized that it should be Thor's hammer. When Thor first came to the earth, the hammer appeared first. At that time, Coulson seemed to be responsible. Peru, dense jungle. As the plane landed and got on the off-road vehicle, the group soon arrived at an archaeological excavation site. I'm going to park the car in a remote place. It's too empty here. After everyone got out of the car, May said, and then drove away. Coulson and others walked through the jungle and came to a pyramid-like building. At this time, a person walked out of it. He should be the person in charge. Coulson went over to talk, and Su-Jean whispered, after a while, everyone be careful, I don't think it's safe. I heard that there seem to be rebels here and they have been fighting a war. Fitz said with some fear. Anyway, please pay attention and try to follow me. Su-Jean reminded them that the conversation over there had been finished at this time, and he invited them to go in for testing. After Su-Jean entered, he saw something embedded in the wall. 084, unknown object. I just know that this thing is very powerful. Knowing that he was coming here, Su-Jean was wondering if he could get this thing. But eventually he gave up. Although it is dangerous, it is not very practical. Even if it is given to me, I don't have the ability to turn it into a super weapon. Secondly, he had no place to put it and was afraid of being suspected. He has no plans to leave S.H.I.E.L.D. now, at least not until Skye awakens to the Inhuman's abilities, so, after taking a look, he went out. His current system level is still too low, so there is very little he can do. It would be easy if you could open a plane that you could enter and exit at any time. Then you could make it your own base, have a place to put things, and, you could also enjoy researching. After all, with so many things now available, it's hard to guarantee that they won't be caught in the wind. The road to becoming a king is a long one. Chapter 0019 Cool enough and impressive enough. Su-Jean stood on the entrance steps of the pyramid, took out a lighter and fiddled with it. The flames kept flashing. Suddenly, Su-Jean moved his finger, and the flames suddenly jumped up, split into two groups, and flew out instantly. Ah! Screams rang out instantly, and two soldiers screamed and fell to the ground. At this time, many soldiers suddenly emerged from the surroundings, each pointing their guns at Su-Jean. At this time, May also came back, neatly put a person aside, grabbed a gun and confronted them. Actually, you don't have to do this at all. Su-Jean smiled at May, and under May's puzzled gaze, Su-Jean walked over slowly. Don't move, or we'll shoot. The other party shouted loudly, but Su-Jean ignored him. The flames instantly gathered all over his body and flew out quickly as he walked, hitting those people with incomparable accuracy. No one was spared. Not only that, Su-Jean also directly blew up their car. Boom, boom, the sound of the explosion was deafening and endless. By the time Su-Jean stopped at his feet, everyone around him was already lying down. Su-Jean turned around and smiled at May, who shook her head helplessly. She now understood the reason why Coulson asked Su-Jean to join. Any dangerous situation seemed to become easy in front of him. What happened? Coulson came out and was startled when he saw the mess outside. He found a woman lying not far away who looked familiar. Camilla. Coulson walked over quickly and said in surprise, "This is the commander of Peru, a friend of mine." "I'm afraid it's not as simple as friends, right?" Su-Jean said with a smile. "Besides, your friends don't seem to be friendly." Coulson shrugged. Camilla had already woken up at this time. She was very surprised to see Coulson. The two were about to reminisce about the past, but Su-Jean said in a disgraceful manner, "You two, now is not the time to reminisce. Coulson, you'd better let your friend leave with her people." "Why?" Coulson asked inexplicably. Just think she's unhappy with me." Su-Jean shrugged. Coulson rolled his eyes. "What reason was that?" "Forget it. If you don't listen to me, don't blame me for the loss." Su-Jean shrugged, turned around and clapped his hands and said, "Okay, everyone, let's hurry up. I think there will be trouble soon." With that said, Su-Jean went over and pulled the thing out. Under Fitz's muttering, he packed it into a box, put it on his shoulder, and urged everyone to leave. May, get ready to drive, we are leaving. Su-Jean said to May. May hesitated because there was no order from Coulson, but Su-Jean's tone was unquestionable and very serious. May thought about it and finally drove. Anyway, now that the things are in hand, it's time to leave. May gang drove the car over here. Sky, Gemma and others got in the car. Su-Jean glanced at Coulson who was still chatting and shook his head. Hey, we should go. Just as Coulson was about to speak, gunfire suddenly rang out, and a bunch of rebels appeared from nowhere. I knew it would be like this. Su-Jean shook his head helplessly, ran quickly to Coulson, dragged him directly to the car, but at this time there was no empty seat in the car. You go first, go to the plane, I'll be there soon. Su-Jean. Don't worry, honey, I'll be fine. Take her, she is in danger. Coulson shouted towards Su-Jean. Su-Jean shook his head. Okay, as long as you don't regret it. After closing the car door, May started the car and left quickly. Su-Jean walked towards Camilla who was taking cover and counterattacking. Hey, I know what you are thinking, but I advise you to give up this idea. Su-Jean said something, and then controlled the flames to fly. The huge hot flame turned into a fire dragon and roared out. As the fire dragon danced, explosions sounded one after another, just like the roar of the fire dragon. After a while, the rebels were easily eliminated. This ability is really good. Su-Jean nodded secretly with satisfaction. Camilla looked at Su-Jean in surprise. How did you do that? Are you a mutant? Stop being ignorant, not only mutants have superpowers. Su-Jean said without curiosity, and then grabbed Camilla. Chapter 17. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. What do you want to do? Camilla panicked. Get you out of here, the plane is quite far from here. After Su-Jean finished speaking, the surrounding flames rushed over crazily and appeared on the soles of his feet. Following a thought, the flames roared out. Ah! Camilla yelled in panic. The heat wave made her feel like she was about to be roasted. The flames under her feet were flying so fast that she was almost frightened. This feeling is like surfing in flames. The hot flames fly past and the leaves and other things nearby are burned one after another. Not long after, Su-Jean saw the plane and the surprised expressions of Sky and others. Perhaps they never thought that they would come back using this method of movement. Seeing their stunned expressions, Su-Jean was very satisfied with his idea. It was convenient, stylish, and extremely cool. The only shortcoming is that it cannot generate fire on its own, cannot support flying too far or too high, and cannot do as it pleases. Okay, we can go. After landing, the flames disappeared, and Su-Jean walked in casually and said, Are you okay? Coulson asked looking at the embarrassed Camilla. Camilla didn't seem to have reacted yet and shook her head stupidly. The plane took off slowly, and Su-Jean changed his clothes and came out. As a result, Coulson was waiting for him at the door of the room. Is something wrong? Well, you just kept reminding me not to regret it, and your attitude towards Camilla, why? Coulson asked. Su-Jean shook his head. It's not important anymore. No, this is important to me. Coulson insisted. Okay, then let me tell you, I have the ability to predict the future, but it is not accurate every time. I know she will appear, I know the rebels will appear, and I know you will take her on the plane. Then she will make an idea for 084. Although it was safely resolved later, a big hole was blown into the plane, and you will be scolded by Nick Fury. But it doesn't matter now, she is only one person, and she saw my after gaining the ability. If she still dares to make a wrong decision, she is seeking death. Actually, this feeling of doing good deeds and no one knows about it is really not a good feeling. If I weren't worried about Sky being frightened, I really want things to develop, so that it makes sense for me to save you. Do good deeds without leaving your name, it's really not my style. Su-Jean curled his lips and said something, then turned and left. Chapter 0020 An unexpected encounter with the invisible woman. Coulson didn't expect it to be like this. He believed what Su-Jean said. After all, Su-Jean couldn't target Camilla for no reason, and he and Camilla hadn't seen each other for a long time. People, all change. He suddenly felt a little lucky. Fortunately, Su-Jean was there. Fortunately, he had this ability. Otherwise, let alone 084 being snatched away. Even if it hadn't been, a hole in the plane would have been a big trouble. Moreover, after this incident, Coulson also knew that Su-Jean had the ability to predict the future, which was a very important ability. Although he knew that Camilla would not have any crooked ideas now, Coulson still put 084 away carefully, and then contacted the headquarters, preparing to land directly at a special location and put away 084. In fact, Camilla really had no idea, not to mention that she was alone. Su-Jean's existence alone was not something she could deal with. In the face of strong strength, her ambitions had to be suppressed. Therefore, Camilla stayed until the plane landed, then said goodbye to Coulson and left. Everyone was relieved that this problem was solved perfectly, especially when they knew that Su-Jean used the ability to predict the future to solve the danger in advance. They were even more happy. After all, with Su-Jean here, how many dangers can be avoided in the future? After a brief celebration, the plane returned. Sky, do you want to go out for a walk after we land? Find a place to eat? Su-Jean came to Sky's room and leaned against the door and asked. Sky apologized and said, "Honey, I'm afraid not. I want to stay and investigate some clues." Okay. Then I'll go out for a walk. Contact me if you need anything. Su-Jean responded, smiled and said it was okay, and then prepared to go out for a walk. Although the plane is nice, you can't see the colorful world outside. Although Su-Jean is not a hedonist, he will not wrong himself. He was going to go out for a walk and find a bar to have some drinks. Well, maybe there will be some wonderful encounters. New York, Queens. Su-Jean, who was wandering around, checked on his mobile phone. There was a very popular bar nearby, and it was said that there were clouds of beautiful women. According to the address, Su-Jean quickly found the bar. After entering, the music was deafening and noisy. Men and women could be seen everywhere. So he took a quick glance and found a few beauties with good conditions. Unfortunately, there were already people around him. Su-Jean was not interested in playing jealousy and stealing people. This one is pretty. She can score at least 90 points or above. She has blonde hair and looks like a doll. Yes, it's you. Su-Jean found a beautiful woman sitting in the corner of the bar and immediately walked over to her. Sat down. Su-Jean stretched out his hand to gesture to the bartender and pointed at the blonde beauty's wine glass. 2 glasses of that wine she drank. The blonde beauty glanced at Su-Jean and said harshly, "If you want to strike up a conversation with me, that's not necessary. I'm not interested in you. Interests can be cultivated." "Hello, my name is Su-Jean." Su-Jean said with a disapproving smile. "I'm not interested in knowing who you are or what your name is." The blonde beauty snorted. Su-Jean shrugged. "Well, it seems that you are not in a good mood, but since this is my first failed attempt at striking up a conversation, I hope you can still give me some face." The bartender put the drinks down, and Su-Jean pushed one of them towards the blonde. The blonde beauty picked up the wine glass and drank it all in one gulp, then stood up and swayed away. "Well, it seems I really failed." Su-Jean shrugged helplessly and didn't pay much attention. After drinking a few glasses of wine, feeling the atmosphere in the bar and looking at beautiful women from time to time, it felt very relaxing. After about 4 or 5 drinks, Su-Jean was ready to leave. His drinking capacity is not very good, and he is here to relax and enjoy himself, not to get drunk. After walking out of the bar, Su-Jean was going to find a hotel to rest. Although the room on the plane was nice, it was far less comfortable than a hotel. After walking a few steps, Su-Jean suddenly noticed that the blonde beauty was wandering towards a remote alley, and there was a person following her. "You won't be so bloody, will you? Are you planning to let me, the hero, save the beauty?" Su-Jean muttered and walked over quickly. "Although I was rejected just now, I can't just ignore it, not to mention she is a beautiful woman. It would be a pity if someone took advantage of her because she drank too much, wouldn't it?" Roll. Just when Su-Jean walked over and was about to help, he suddenly saw the blonde beauty turning around suddenly and pushing forward with both hands. In an instant, it seemed as if a wave of energy came out and hit the person directly, knocking her out. He took several steps back. Nima, what's going on? Su-Jean was still prepared to be a hero, but who knew he wouldn't use it at all? Chapter 18. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. That was a telepathic attack just now. Su-Jean was a little curious. There was no trace, and he could only feel a wave of energy. There are many people in the Marvel world who know how to attack like this, but there seem to be not many blonde people who are so beautiful. The first thing Su-Jean thought of was Susan, the invisible woman in the Fantastic Four, but she seemed to look a little different. Wrong. If you look carefully, it seems that it is really her. It's just that he's not wearing the Fantastic Four uniform, and his hairstyle has changed a bit, so I didn't recognize him in a dark place like a bar. Damn, what a coincidence, isn't it? However, this is Queens, New York, which should be the range of activities of Spider-Man. Why didn't he meet Spider-Man, but he met the invisible woman Susan? Su-Jean was a little surprised, but she seems to have drunk too much. She can't just let it go, right? Hey, Susan. Su-Jean shouted. Susan looked at Su-Jean. It's you, you're the guy in the bar, you're with the puppet master. What puppet master? I don't even know who he is, the ghosts are with him. Su-Jean said depressedly, but unfortunately Susan ignored his explanation at all. She raised her hand and launched a telepathic attack towards Su. The battle was over. Chapter 0021 Breaking the magnetic field of mind. A burst of telepathic energy crashed into Su-Jean instantly. The huge force shocked Su-Jean back several steps, and he felt as if he was about to be torn apart. Is this a telepathic attack? Su-Jean grinned. Fortunately, his body had been strengthened by the extremis virus, otherwise this would have been terrible. However, the extremis virus is really strong. When attacked by telekinesis, it only felt pain, but no injuries. Hey, that's enough. I'm not with some bullshit puppet master. I just happened to see you looking like you were in trouble and wanted to come over and help. Su-Jean shouted when he saw that Susan wanted to take action. Humph, do you think I will believe you when you say this? You just started talking to me, and now you are following the puppet made by the puppet master. Do you think I will believe that you want to help? Do I need your help? Susan shouted with a sneer. From the look on her face, Su-Jean knew that she was drunk and slurred her speech. It seemed that the misunderstanding could not be explained clearly. What bad luck. Su-Jean muttered depressedly and said, it's up to you. It doesn't make sense to talk to a woman anyway, let alone a drunk woman. Since you misunderstood me, I'll just leave. After saying that, Su-Jean turned around and prepared to leave. You want to run away because you've been discovered? No way. Susan snorted and launched another telepathic attack with her hands. The powerful and invisible force went straight towards Su-Jean. Su-Jean hurriedly hid to the side when he heard a loud bang and the ground cracked. Damn, you are trying to kill me. You have been doing it over and over again. I really thought that being drunk would be a big deal. Seeing the damage caused by the telepathic attack, Su-Jean was really angry. He originally thought he would be lucky enough to meet Susan. Yes, but now it seems that you may be lucky to meet Susan, but you may not be lucky to meet a drunk Susan. You forced me to do this. I can only let you wake up first. Seeing that Susan had no intention of giving up, and actually began to gather her mental power to form an invisible magnetic field around her, Su-Jean was ready to take action. The big words sound nice. I want to see if you have the ability to wake me up. As the invisible magnetic field gets stronger and stronger, a transparent aperture gradually appears, rippling layer by layer, and the gathered power of thought becomes stronger and stronger. It got stronger and stronger, and there was even a sizzling sound in the air. Crack, the flames burst out from the lighter, then grew bigger and stronger, gradually surrounding Su-Jean, rolling layer by layer. At this time, Su-Jean was like the god of war coming out of the flames, with a smile on his face. Looking cold. Look down on me. Then let's see if I have the strength to wake you up, Su-Jean said with a sneer, and the flames around him suddenly accelerated, like a sea of fire that instantly rushed toward Susan. Humph, it turns out you can control fire, but that's not enough. Susan said, suddenly her body shook, and her clothes instantly turned into pieces, revealing the tight-fitting suits of the Fantastic Four underneath. I have to say, Susan's figure is amazing in her tight uniform. The sea of fire came towards me and instantly pounced on the mental magnetic field formed by Susan. Susan's expression was a bit proud. Her telepathic magnetic field was very strong and could not be easily shaken. That's it. I've said it before, this is not enough. What's worse is. Before the word Yuan Bai could be said, Susan's expression suddenly changed, because Su-Jean had already arrived in front of her, reaching out his hand as if to grasp the telepathy magnetic field. This alone was not worthy of Susan's surprise. What really surprised him was that the flames wrapped around his hands, like fire fists. In the flames, his hands gradually changed and turned red, like magma. Such high temperature made Susan feel that her mental magnetic field seemed to be melting and being squeezed away bit by bit. This is impossible. Susan couldn't believe it and increased her telekinesis. Sizzle, the flames were beating, and the transparent light of the telepathy magnetic field became chaotic and began to become a little unstable. Susan raised her hands, gritted her teeth, and continued to strengthen her mind power, but the effect was minimal. Do you really think that your mental magnetic field is invincible? Originally, I was too lazy to argue with you, a drunk woman, but you only think that I am made of clay. You can do whatever you want. Now, I am looking forward to waiting. It's time for me to wake you up. Su-Jean looked at Susan coldly and raised his other hand slightly. Power gathered in his hands, and the distant sea of fire rushed to his hands. Entangled in circles, the fire became bigger and bigger, and the air was burned away. Power, very powerful power. Susan could feel that if he punched her down, her telepathy magnetic field would definitely collapse. She has almost used all her strength to bless the magnetic field. Break it for me. Su-Jean shouted loudly and punched the telepathy magnetic field with his fist. Bang, bang. The invisible mental magnetic field is like an ice cube. It makes a crackling sound from the place where it is hit, and then cracks and shatters instantly. The fist wind generated by the fire fist and the fragmentation of the mental magnetic field, the two forces combined, caused Susan to be directly thrown away. In the blink of an eye, she had hit the wall heavily, and blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. It seems like it's too harsh. Watching Susan collapse and fall to the ground, unable to get up. Su-Jean's resentment and feeling of being slighted also disappeared. Although he was a little apologetic, sometimes, if you want to solve the problem, you have to prove your strength, right? Are you awake now? Su-Jean asked in a deep voice as he walked up to Susan. Susan looked at Su-Jean and seemed to want to say something, but suddenly her head tilted and she fainted. Isn't it? Are you fainting now? Su-Jean was speechless. Susan fainted at this time. What should I do? We can't just let it go. In desperation, Su-Jean knelt down and checked, and found that, although she was injured, it was not too serious. The reason why she fainted was because she was drunk. Su-Jean's face turned dark. Forget it, let's wait until you sober up. Su-Jean picked up Susan and prepared to open a room in a nearby hotel to accommodate Susan. Chapter 19. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Hey, brother, you better put her down, otherwise I will be rude to you. Just as Su-Jean picked up Susan and was about to leave, he heard a sound in the air. Chapter 0022 Fat Beat Spider-Man. A man hangs upside down on the roof, wearing red striped clothes and a mask, with such a familiar shape, you can immediately tell that it is Spider-Man. Seeing Su-Jean looking at him, Spider-Man instantly landed, stood in front of Su-Jean and pointed at him and said, Hey, if I admit it correctly, what you are holding in your arms is the invisible female Susan. Do you know? She's on good terms with his brother the Human Torch, so you'd better put her down. What if I say no? Su-Jean squinted his eyes and looked at Spider-Man. It was obvious that Spider-Man had misunderstood. Su-Jean didn't know if today was his unlucky day, as he was misunderstood one after another, but now he has no idea of explanation. One or two people are talking to me in this tone. Do you really think I am easy to bully? If Spider-Man had asked what happened first, maybe Su-Jean wouldn't be angry. But using that tone of voice to put him down right from the start would be too disrespectful of me, wouldn't it? Spider-Man shrugged. Then there is no other way, I can only take action. But, believe me, you are no match for me, so I'd better kill him. Before Spider-Man could finish speaking, Su-Jean was already in front of him with Susan in his arms and kicked him. What are you talking about endlessly? If you beat me, you will take her away, otherwise, she will disappear from my eyes. Su-Jean shouted impatiently and kicked Spider-Man away. Spider-Man reacted quickly, blocking the front with his arms, taking a few steps back, shaking his arms and saying, "It hurts so much. Why are you so strong?" After saying that, he suddenly raised his arm and made Spider-Man's signature move. On his wrist, the web launcher instantly sprayed out spider silk. With a patter, the spider silk fell to the ground one after another. Although he was holding a person, it did not have much impact on Su-Jean and he easily dodged it. Spider-Man suddenly sprayed out spider silk and flew up, starting to float in the air while continuing to attack Su-Jean. Before long, his surroundings were covered with spider webs. Do you want to use spider silk to reduce my movement range? I have to say that this is a very smart idea and is in line with your usual style. After all, your ability is not very strong. If you don't use your mind, I'm afraid he's dead a long time ago. Su-Jean said approvingly. Hey, although I appreciate your compliment, but, you'd better put the person down. The floating Spider-Man said. Praise. Do you think I am praising you? Although you are very smart and know how to use your own advantages to fight, but, you forgot one thing. Su-Jean said with a sneer. Spider-Man was a little curious. What had he forgotten? Some people can't be defeated by just using your brain. Su-Jean sneered and used the lighter to release flames. Holding Susan with both hands, he did not make any move, but the flames around him rushed directly towards Spider-Man. Oh, God, no, no, no. Spider-Man yelled depressedly, and his webbing was burned away by the flames in an instant. It's not over yet, because the flames have already set their sights on him. He hurriedly used the spider silk to float and dodge, and hid in the air very flexibly. Who are you? Why didn't I know you before? Are you new? Spider-Man asked as if he was chatting away while hiding. This is Spider-Man, a slightly funny Spider-Man. Unfortunately, Su-Jean had no interest in chatting with him. Controlling the flames to gather together and form a big fireball, Spider-Man stopped and watched warily. Do you like fireworks? Su-Jean said with a chuckle, and the fireball exploded instantly, sparks flying, like fireworks in full bloom. It was extremely beautiful. There was a squeaking sound, and Spider-Man subconsciously looked up and found a ball of fire on the spider silk hanging from him, burning rapidly. No! Spider-Man shouted and his body fell down instantly. He was about to spray out spider silk again to stabilize his body, but suddenly he saw Su-Jean put Susan down, covered her ears with his hands, and then, opened his mouth. Ah! A harsh sound came from behind. The rippling sound waves sent Spider-Man flying out in an instant. Unable to control his body, he hit the wall like a kite with its string broken, and then fell to the ground with a snap. Su-Jean stopped speaking, looked at the dizzy Spider-Man, picked up Susan again and said, Remember, my name is Su-Jean. Next time you see me, you'd better stay away. Don't even think about it. Spider-Man shook his head and sent out webbing towards Su-Jean, but was easily destroyed by the flames. Where are the people? But he suddenly discovered that Su-Jean was missing. Just as he was about to look for it, a shadow suddenly appeared in front of him. Looking up and looking at the sneering Su-Jean, Spider-Man raised his hand and said, Hey, I just wanted to make a joke. I think you don't mind. Of course I don't mind, but I also want to play a joke on you. Su-Jean smiled and then rushed forward. Ah! Spider-Man's screams came, along with the screams and the sounds of punches and kicks. 5 minutes later, Soo-Jeon hugged Susan and left from the alley with a bright smile on his face. Fatty beat Spider-Man, and he felt much better. After Soo-Jeon left, Spider-Man limped out and looked very embarrassed. Although Soo-Jeon didn't specifically use his full strength, his strength was considerable, and thanks to the fact that this was Spider-Man, an ordinary person would have died long ago. Even so, Spider-Man was seriously injured, and he might not be able to recover in a short time. Soo-Jeon, where did this guy come from? No, I have to contact the Fantastic Four quickly to rescue Susan. Chapter 0023 Thunderbolt is coming. In the hotel, Soo-Jeon walked out of the bathroom and took a comfortable hot bath, which made him feel much better. Originally preparing to come out to relax, he got up inexplicably and came into contact with the invisible woman Susan. As a result, he had an inexplicable fight with her, and then was inexplicably stopped by Spider-Man, and they had another fight. Even though I won both games, I still feel unhappy just thinking about it. Glancing at Susan, who was still awake in the room, Soo-Jeon took out a glass of red wine and poured it into a glass. He sat on the sofa and drank leisurely, thinking about the two battles just now. Chapter 20. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Although he won them all, and won easily, Soo-Jeon found that his attack methods were still too weak. Invisible Woman and Spider-Man are neither close combat superheroes nor very strong. Therefore, my Extremis virus ability does not have many opportunities to manifest. Although the ability to control fire is good, it only controls flames, rather than generating firepower. If it weren't for his super strength and the power of flames, he might not be able to break Susan's telepathic magnetic field. Although the sonic ability is not bad, it is not exciting and cool enough. How many protagonists rely on opening their mouths to make waves? Even the talk is better than this, right? I still need to develop some more impressive abilities. Soo-Jeon took a sip of red wine, thinking that Spider-Man was beaten by him and Susan was taken away by him. This matter is definitely not over. He should find helpers to save Susan, right? Although this is just a misunderstanding, it is not something that cannot be exploited. Who is Spider-Man most likely to look for? S.H.I.E.L.D. A member of the Avengers? Or the Fantastic Four? The Fantastic Four might be more likely. After all, Susan is one of them, and from what Spider-Man means, he has a good relationship with the Human Torch. Susan is the Human Torch's sister. The Human Torch has an impatient personality and will most likely come to her directly without giving herself a chance to explain. Johnny Human Torch. He can generate temperatures of thousands of degrees, can fly, can also issue fire attacks, and is immune to fire. However, his flames are natural fires and will go out without oxygen, and they can also be played when encountering a large amount of water. Over. To put it simply, it is considered to be above average in terms of fire ability. After Soo-Jeon devoured the Extremis virus, he was considering his own strengthening route. After devouring the fire control ability, he became even more determined to take the fire system route. Of course, this is also temporary. After all, he can devour all abilities. He just decides to temporarily develop the fire system route based on the ease of acquiring abilities. His original plan was to gain the ability to control fire, and then devour the Hong Kong man he would meet in the future. He could produce fire, but it was not powerful, and then he would consider Johnny Human Torch, but the plan did not change quickly, and now it seems that the order is about to change. I wonder if my fire control ability can control the flames of the Thunderbolt. Soo-Jeon swung the red wine in the glass and waited quietly. Johnny, your sister was kidnapped by a mysterious man named Soo-Jeon. I have determined his location, but his opponent is very strong. I beat him up. I'm afraid I won't be able to save Susan. Spider-Man. The first person contacted was indeed the Human Torch. At this time, the Human Torch was having fun in the bar. When he received a call from Spider-Man, the Human Torch wanted to invite him to play together, but after hearing Spider-Man's words, he had no idea at all. What? You said Susan was captured. Where is it? I'll be there right away. Johnny asked hurriedly. Spider-Man gave an address, and Johnny was about to leave. Leave now? Don't you want to change places with me and continue? The female companion next to Johnny said with some disappointment. Johnny smiled and said, "Don't worry, there is a guy who dares to fight against our Fantastic Four regardless of life or death, so I am going to deal with him now and will be back soon. Then we will change places to continue. Wait for me, baby, I'll be back soon." After speaking, Johnny came out of the bar. His body was shaken and instantly turned into flames, and he flew away under the astonished eyes of everyone. On the roof of a certain hotel, Spider-Man is treating his injuries. Watching the fire flying in the distance, Johnny landed. Just as Spider-Man was about to speak, he heard Johnny say, "Where is he? I can't wait to let him know how stupid it is to be an enemy of the Fantastic Four. He is on the 19th floor of this hotel, but I guess he should know that I am watching him here. Johnny, don't mess around. He can control the flame, which just restrains your ability." Spider-Man reminded said. "Really? Not everyone can control my fire," Johnny said confidently, and then jumped directly to the 19th floor. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, he saw Susan lying in the room. And a man sitting on the sofa in the lobby drinking red wine. "It should be you." Human Torch said something and flew over instantly. Boom, puff, the floor-to-ceiling windows were directly destroyed by him. Sure enough, it's him. Looking at Thunderbolt, Su-Jean didn't have the slightest hint of panic on his face. "Boy, you are Su-Jean. You are the one who kidnapped my sister. Do you want to become an enemy of our Fantastic Four?" Johnny shouted towards Su-Jean in an arrogant tone. Su-Jean shrugged. "I think this may be a misunderstanding." "I don't think this is a misunderstanding. Even if it is a misunderstanding, I'll listen to your explanation after I teach you a lesson." Johnny didn't want to listen to Su-Jean's explanation at all. When he finished speaking, he had already released flames and hit Su-Jean. Su-Jean dodged immediately, and the flames hit the sofa, exploding it. Johnny didn't stop after one hit, and the flames kept rushing towards Su-Jean, but Su-Jean could only dodge in embarrassment. But while dodging, the corners of his mouth turned up slightly. The arrogant and proud Johnny had no idea that he had stepped into Su-Jean's design step by step. Chapter 0024 Who is Unlucky? "You better stop, otherwise I will fight back." That while Su-Jean was avoiding the swarming flames, he couldn't bear it and shouted at Johnny Human Torch. Fight back if you can. Don't you know how to control fire? Try to see if you can control my flames. If you can't, don't blame me for being rude." Johnny shouted arrogantly. "You are forcing me. Do you know what the consequences will be?" Su-Jean shouted in a deep voice. "Scare me, I don't care what the consequences are for you, I'm going to teach you a lesson today. If you have the ability, just fight back, I want to see what you are capable of," Johnny said, turning into a pyro and moving towards him quickly. Su-Jean rushed over. Su-Jean deliberately took a step slowly and was hit by him, and his clothes instantly burned into ashes. The huge force caused Su-Jean to hit the wall. Looking at Thunderbolt, who raised his hands and rushed towards him, Su-Jean roared and shouted, "You forced me to do this." After the words fell, Su-Jean suddenly took action, grabbing with incomparable accuracy. He caught Johnny Thunderbolt's arm that had turned into flames, but his flames were unable to hurt Su-Jean. Johnny was surprised for a moment. He didn't expect that he was not afraid of his own flames. "Fool." After the Human Torch was surprised, he smiled proudly. "Is my fire so easy to catch?" After he finished speaking, he opened his fingers and hit Su-Jean like a flaming bullet. However, Su-Jean showed a disdainful sneer. Human Torch, your arrogant and impulsive character will eventually kill you. Although I took away your ability, I at least saved your life. You should be grateful." Boom. Su-Jean raised his fist and hit the Thunderbolt directly in the face. The punch was so powerful and heavy that the Thunderbolt almost flew out. However, because his hand was grabbed, he was pulled back just as he flew out to greet him. It's Su-Jean's fist surrounded by flames. One punch, one circle, knocked away, dragged back. Knocked away, dragged back. after repeated punches for more than 10 times, the flames on Human Torch's body had been extinguished, his face was almost blurred, and the blows were actually swollen. How is it possible? Squinting his swollen eyes, Human Torch saw that his flames failed to hurt Su Zhan. Instead, as if following Su Zhan's orders, they gathered on Su Zhan's body and hands, and in turn attacked him. He can actually control his own flames. This is impossible. I advised you because you were disobedient. Su Zhan looked at the surprised Thunderbolt and said coldly, grabbing his hand and already beginning to devour his ability. Crack.